Welcome to the Overcoming Medical Hair Loss Summit. My name is Valerie Fuentes. I'm your host, and today I am with Nancy Levin. She is a master life coach and bestselling author of 5 books, including her latest, Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free, the ultimate guide to telling the truth, creating connection, and finding freedom. She was formerly the event director at Hay House, and she recently launched her Life Coach Academy. Nancy, I'm so thrilled to have you here today. Nancy's also the author of one of the books that has literally changed my life, Worthy. And that's where I learned that self-worth is an inside job. And when that happened, my life completely transformed. So let's dive in.
Okay, I'm so happy to be here with you.
Thank you, Nancy. So first things first, I think I want to talk about the first feelings that we experienced when we started losing our hair, regardless of the cause, right? It could be alopecia, it could be cancer, it could be any autoimmune disease, trichotillomania. The first thing that we experienced, or the first thing I experienced, was shame and guilt, which is also one of the lowest levels of energy, if not the lowest. So it pretty much takes you down. And you can stay there for a long time. So I wanted to ask you, what can we do to start to manage that? How can we manage this really low levels of energy and like shame and guilt around our hair loss?
So the first thing is to really look at what you're making it mean about you. So in other words, the shame and the guilt is a byproduct of whatever you're making the hair loss mean about you. So it's looking at the beliefs that we're holding around this experience. So we're looking for beliefs around either I am this or I'm not this because of the hair loss. So we want to look at the conclusions that we're drawing based on the hair loss, because the truth of the matter is that the fact of hair loss is not what is causing suffering. The story that we're wrapping around the hair loss is what's causing the suffering. Mm-hmm. We want to separate out the fact from the fiction, and we want to recognize what we're making it mean, what are the conclusions that we're drawing, and how we're holding the hair loss as the identity that we're wrapping ourselves in.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so for me, what that looked like was I am broken, right? Yeah. Nobody's going to love me. Something's wrong with me. I think that was like the hardest part for me, was to hear, every doctor that I kept going to, they will tell me, this is an autoimmune disease, which means that your body is killing itself. And so I felt like my body is betraying me. Right. And I carried that through. Right. So I started hating myself, literally. And, after going through that process and getting to like my lowest low, where, I pretty much didn't want to live anymore, I decided, okay, I'm going to live. I'm going to live, and I'm going to live with this. And then I went to try to compensate for my lack of X, right? Which was not only hair. Now I know it was self-worth and self-love and, lack of a lot of things. And I just became obsessed with excellence and my career. And, if I'm not going to have hair, then I'm going to be the best at everything else. And I think, I've heard from your story that you at some point were like that, like you were going the extra mile for everybody and everything, right? So tell us a little bit more about that, and what that looks like when we start how can we catch ourselves when we're doing that?
Right. So when we're overcompensating for what we perceive as a lack, when we're overcompensating, what we're essentially doing is we're managing the perception of others. So we're wanting to give others a lens to see us through. So, as you were naming, so if you feel, you said you felt broken, you said you felt, all of these things that were in the belief system, they funnel really into, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of health. I'm not worthy of wellness. I'm not worthy of aliveness. So they funnel into this, I'm not worthy. And then what we do in the overcompensation is we try to earn or prove our worth because we think that someone or something outside of us is going to be able to give us that experience of feeling worthy. So what I often say is, we start hitching our worthiness to someone else's wagon. We let someone else be the determiner and governor of our worth. And it's a very precarious position to be in because we're really giving our power away to something outside of us. And so the goal here is to, we have it backwards. We think that we will feel more worthy if someone outside of us gives us a stamp of approval. So so in my case, I was chasing all the gold stars of external validation. Right? And so the truth is that no amount of gold stars will ever be enough to fill the void that I'm experiencing inside, because everything I'm seeking externally needs to be resolved internally first. So it is an inside job. I need to actually cultivate the worthiness within in order for it to be then reflected out. It's not that we find our worthiness because we've earned or proven ourselves to someone else, and then they give us the stamp of approval.
Absolutely. And I also think it's a process, right? Like for me, it was definitely a process. It wasn't like one day I felt worthy and that was that. It started very slowly. But then when it finally clicked for me, I pretty much did a 360 degree, right? Like I left corporate, started my own business, found the love of my life after, cheated relationship after cheated relationship. I'm just a new person, right? A whole new human after, like you said, I had all the awards in the world, in corporate. And I remember sitting at home on Sunday nights by myself and just thinking to myself, is this what my life is going to be like? Just being alone, right? Alone because nobody's going to love me. And I have all these things that mean nothing to me, right? And then, when I decided that I was going to change my life, I pretty much had to break down everything that I had created and let go of everything, right? Let go of that identity.
So I talk a lot about that in Worthy. It is an identity suicide. It really is letting go of that persona, the way that I've packaged myself to be digestible to everybody else, and the way that I've created a system for myself by which, I'm constantly striving, whether it is the perfectionism or whether it is attaching my sense of worth and value to what I do and achieve and produce. That's a big thing, especially for women, and especially for women who are, people pleasers, peacekeepers, overachievers, overgivers. We're determining our value by how much we do and how much we give. And so that's where the shift needs to happen.
So what are like 3 things that we can do to show our willingness to be worthy, right? Like I feel like we need to train our brain, right? It's almost like a brain hack.
Yeah.
So what can we do?
Right. And so, for me, it's always going to come back to self-locating. So when we feel separate from our sense of worth, it's actually because we have, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, made everyone else in our life a priority except for ourselves. So the first thing we need to do is we need to actually get in touch with our own wants and needs and desires, and really get okay with the wanting and the having. And this can be something that feels very foreign if you are someone who has actually prided yourself on your independence and self-sufficiency and having no needs. So it is about being able to come into alignment with the fact that we all have needs. And so to start thinking in terms of really being okay with wanting and needing and having. So what happens often is we get stuck in this sort of zero-sum game mentality. If someone else has, it means I go without. Or if I have, it means someone else goes without. And so when we connect with our wanting and having and receiving, we're actually opening ourselves up. We're expanding our own capacity. We're boosting our havingness level, so that we're not creating for ourselves this zero-sum game that I was mentioning, so that we know that there's enough for everyone. It's not that if I have, you go without, or vice versa. And also recognizing that if someone else has something that you want, you can reframe it as a desire. So reframe the envy or the jealousy as a desire, and reframe the wanting so that you're aware that if someone else has it, it means it's possible for you as well.
So I have a question about that, because that's actually something that a question I get a lot is how to manage that jealousy with people that don't have this condition, right? I hear a lot that women start obsessing with looking at other women's hairline, and cannot stand that their mom, their sister, their cousin, everybody in their family has beautiful hair and they don't, and they start resenting them. Like, how can we manage that when it's something that we can really control, right? Like, we're not going to be able to grow our hair.
Right. So again, to me,
when it's a situation like that,
the hair is secondary. The belief is primary. So again, coming back to what am I making this mean about me? How am I holding myself as less than? How am I holding myself as defective or broken, as you said? How am I holding myself in this way? Because the truth of the matter is, the only way to overcome that is to flip it. How am I now going to hold myself in a different belief? So it's not, I mean, it's about the hair, and it's not about the hair. It's really about what am I making this mean, and how am I holding myself because of this?
Right. And the moment you shift that, it doesn't matter. Like you said, like, it doesn't matter whether you have hair, whether you get a buzz cut, whether you wear wigs, like the hair, it doesn't matter at all, because you know your worth.
And that's the thing, right? So it's you know, it's not, my worth is not based on hair or no hair. You know, the worth is something internal, not external. And my worth my worth grows by how I personally nurture and feed it. You know, how I'm willing to show up to cultivate my own sense of worthiness. That's how my worth is going to grow. And so, you know, to the point earlier, you know, something else that we need to be able to do is really hold ourselves in the center of our own life. So making ourselves a priority as opposed to making everyone else a priority. So this starts at this starts from the point of Am I willing to give myself permission to consider myself and my own needs at least as much as I consider everyone else? At least as much. Then, am I willing to give myself permission to consider myself even more than I'm considering others? And then, am I willing to give myself permission to consider myself first before I consider others? Now, nowhere did I say don't consider others or only
Right.
consider yourself. I'm simply inviting you to be willing to consider yourself as much as, more than, and first. Because so many of us default to crossing the boundary between where we end and someone else begins. And we want to start going into their territory to manage their experience of us. And so, first of all, it's not our responsibility to manage someone else's response to our truth.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to start checking in with, what do I need? What do I want? What do I feel? What do I think? Instead of, what do they want? What do they need? What do they think? What do they feel? So it's a really pivotal point to catch yourself when you are other referencing, as I would call it, as you are determining something about yourself based on someone outside of you.
Right. And I think we experience that a lot. I mean, with everyone. I was going to say we experience that a lot with our families, right? But I think we experience it with everyone. Our, relationships, families, and a huge thing that I've been hearing lately is from my own background, right? I'm originally from Colombia, but I recently started speaking to Spanish-speaking women about their hair loss and supporting them in their journey. And the first thing I heard was, how did you tell your family? And this blows my mind, because I'm like, I want to say 90% of the women that I've talked to that are Hispanic, they tell me, how did you tell your family about your hair loss? And it breaks my heart, because I'm thinking, well, these are the people that should be there to support you. What do you mean, how did I tell my family? But then I started thinking about my own family, and it's like, it's an underlying, I don't know if it's an underlying commitment, but it's like, it's just expected to have hair, right? And then you start worrying about what they're going to say instead of what's going on with you and your emotions, like you said.
Right. Yeah, and so part of that is also, no one really talks about this, that we can make requests from people about how we want to be responded to.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, if sharing something like this that feels very sensitive, we can simply say, hey, there's something I want to share with you. It's really difficult for me. And my request is that you simply just listen and you hold space for me. And when I'm complete, all I want to hear is that you love me. I don't want you to try to fix it or save me or rescue me or offer me any advice even. I simply want you to be with me in the moment and let me know that you love me.
That is brilliant. And that's how I've been trying to manage that, because we do encounter, and I think we will for the rest of our lives. And I think that people are always coming from a good place, trying to offer advice and a new doctor and a new treatment. And, we, like you said, we get to say how we want to be received, and we get to manage that conversation.
The other thing I'll bring in here is that, again, returning to the inside job is, when we're fearing judgment or criticism from someone outside of us, it really is the invitation to look at the way we are judging and criticizing ourselves. So if I'm beating myself up around having no hair, I have a lot of Velcro for the judgment or criticism of someone outside of me to stick to.
Mm.
If I do my own healing work, and if I'm in right alignment with my truth and who I am and what I'm making this mean and what I'm not making this mean, and if I separate hair loss from unworthiness, and hair and separate having hair from worth,
Mm-hmm.
if I am able to do the work I need to do around this, then I have no Velcro for external judgment to stick. It's right. Teflon. And so that's a really important piece. When we're fearing external judgment and criticism, it's simply a reflection of the way we are judging ourselves already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I see is when we don't have that Teflon, we stop living our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
literally.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll stop living, and we also start making up a story around why it's okay to stop living or why it's not okay to be alive. Yeah. And all of that is self-sabotage. All of that is self-sabotage, you know, especially when we build shame in. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm a firm believer that we all think that there's some part of us we have to hide in order to be loved and accepted. Mm-hmm. So we are either hiding some aspect of ourselves, or we're hiding a secret. We're hiding something. We're hiding the thing that if so-and-so knew this, they wouldn't love me. And so we expend all this energy in the hiding. And then, you know, in the next breath, we're saying something like, I just want to be loved for the truth of who I am. But we're not really giving other people the opportunity to love us for our truth because we're still hiding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there is no connection. There can be real connection, right? If we're not being authentic. Right.
That's right.
So what's something that we can, when we catch ourselves, you know, and with the mean girl that comes out sometimes every morning, what can we do when we catch ourselves being super mean and, you know, having that self-doubt conversation? Like, can you give us a quick tip?
Yeah. So one thing that I do, and I literally do this, and I sometimes even say it out loud, is when the mean girl or the inner critic comes, I will literally say, "Oh, there you are. I've been expecting you. Mm. I'm turning your volume down now. We're not doing this today." And what I find is by acknowledging it, it allows the voice to go quiet. Mm. The longer we resist acknowledging, the louder it becomes. And so, you know, the other things are really looking at the way that our past proof dispels what we're believing. So if I believe I'm unlovable, can I find an example in the past of being lovable? Because that will disprove the belief that I'm not lovable. So any belief we have past proof of something else. Mm-hmm. And to reinforce that, and then I will always anchor. The beliefs need to be anchored in action. So it's not simply an affirmation, but it's something that's rooted in action. The action is what's going to cultivate the extension of the new belief.
So would you say that we always need to take action for affirmations and positive talk to work?
I personally do. Okay. I think it's not quite enough to be in the place of affirmation or, you know, law of attraction or, you know, or manifesting. I personally believe that it needs to be met with action.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for me, positive talk was a big one, because I used to really struggle in the morning before I started wearing hair, to get myself ready to get out the door. And I literally started changing my language and talking to myself, Valerie, you're not your hair. You're lovable, you're amazing. Like I started talking to myself, and that was amazing. But I also know that, like you said, that's not enough. You have to, almost like you said, create proof for yourself that you are all those things. Right?
Yeah. And, absolutely. I'm all for it. Listen, I am a legacy holder for Louise Hay. And, her mirror work is, extraordinary.
Everything.
And to me, that is a way to take action, to be looking in the mirror to your own eyes and to be talking to yourself does rewire the belief system. And then what are the things that you can commit to doing to continue cultivating the new beliefs?
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said. Actually, You Can Heal Your Life was one of my very first books that I read in this journey. I think it was probably 18 years old when I first read it. I read it both in English and Spanish. And
Cool.
yeah, that's another one of the books that I please get Worthy, get You Can Heal Your Life. And I promise you, magic things will happen. Well, Nancy, thank you so much. Is there anything else that, that you think that we can use as a tool to get rid of that shame, get rid of that guilt, and, start shifting our life?
To me, it always comes down to choice. So whether it's choosing our beliefs and our thoughts, choosing our own sense of worth and well-being, every choice we make has significant impact. Every choice we make either serves us or sabotages us. We have a choice in every single moment to make a choice that serves us. So every choice we make matters. And I look at our present moment choice as our crystal ball. So our present moment choice is what predicts the future that we live into. And we are far more powerful than we ever give ourselves credit for. So if we can harness the energy that we have been using to beat ourselves up and shift that energy to what fuels and propels and nourishes and nurtures our sense of worth and well-being, we're unstoppable.
Yeah. And we get to choose ourselves every day, right? It's not a one-time thing. We get to choose ourselves every single day.
Every day.
Yeah. Which is, that has definitely been my goal for this summit, is to live everyone empowered to choose themselves every single day.
Absolutely.
Because you're all unique and all have a gift, to bring into the world. And just, you get to do it, but nobody's going to do it for you.
That's right.
So yeah, it's definitely an inside job. And yeah. Well, thank you, Nancy, so much. It has been such an honor to have you. This has been, wow. I got everything I wanted to hear, and I know everybody also got so many nuggets. You guys should watch it again. Take notes. So much good stuff here. Well, thank you, everybody. This is actually our last interview of the summit. So, what a beautiful way to close it. Nancy, I appreciate you again. And thank you, everyone, for being with us for the last month. What a magnificent way to celebrate Alopecia Awareness Month. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.